Hi, welcome to the Senior Network. I'm your host, Greg Fulton. Today we are joined by Barbara Scobey, Bereavement Coordinator with Hospice Care of the Lowcountry. Glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
And our one and only Nancy Rosen, Human Resource Manager with Right at Home.
Thank you for having me.
You too. And we're actually here at Right at Home. So we're at home today,
That's
okay?
Right. We are.
All right. Happy New Year 2019, right?
My
Can't
goodness.
believe it. Yep.
Yep.
Right here.
We survived the holidays. Well, tell us, Barbara, with the new year coming around, give us a little idea of what is your role as a bereavement coordinator?
Okay. Well, I'm new to the area, but I've been here almost 2 years, but I've been in hospice care 14 years after caring for my grandfather. And I'm a licensed social worker, but my main goal here, my role is to be bereavement coordinator. And one of the main things I do is work with patients and their families as they're going through the grieving process, but also the community. We have services that we provide to the community as well as people that we work with. And what I think is really neat, I've been with different hospices, but Hospice Care of the Lowcountry, being a non-profit, really kind of lets me go with the program, and as well as our counseling team, and we're able to, I used to work with families, and you have a lot of support in there at end of life when you're doing the quality and comfort care, but then it kind of, after you lose that loved one, those services stop. And there's just like a disconnect and your support is gone. So the main thing I do is try and provide comfort and support and help people during this grief process.
Well, yeah, and I can imagine with us just passing through the holidays, that probably brings up a lot of after the holidays, right? Grieving and so forth. And you deal a lot with it. I'm sure taking on new patients through the holidays has got to be tough too, right?
Right. We do have, the holidays are difficult for people, especially when it's a first holiday and that person isn't there at the table or to share those traditions. Another thing that's been interesting with the loss of President Bush, a lot of people in my groups have said this really hit home, especially if it's a current or fresh loss for someone. So we really want them to integrate some of their traditions if they're able, but also encourage people to start a new tradition in memory of that person.
Well, and I think, we talk about this in home care all the time about the holidays and going through that, and it just brings a lot of awareness to situations and family members seeing the situations and so forth. Tell us a little bit about what you experience with writing.
It does. I was just talking before we were filming about, some of our busiest, most aware days of the year seem to be the days after Thanksgiving and Christmas. We get a lot of visitors to the area, adult children who don't live here, maybe in Ohio, New York, and they come to visit. They haven't been here for 6 months, and then they visit with mom or dad, and they see some big changes that have happened over the last time that they have visited. And we get an influx of phone calls that say, hey, I think we need to set up an appointment. I think mom or dad could really use some help in the home, and perhaps to partner with your services as well, hospice or home care or home health, meaning that they might need occupational, physical, or speech therapy. So that's a time where we can all come together and partner and really be having these area seniors living their best life once that family member and that decision maker has the awareness.
Sure. And I know we see a lot of it, it's just, a lot of times, just companionship, right?
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, and I think at this time of year, it's really important because I think that they could be missing out on some of the really fun activities that are happening just down at Shelter Cove. I mean, Santa's down there and the light display is up. That had changed a couple of years ago, and now that big light display is there. We could have caregivers be taking them down on a ride and a drive-through just to kind of get into the spirit. It doesn't mean, again, that they're doing the same things that they used to do at the holidays, but it's something, and they're not sitting at home, just kind of wondering, I wonder what the family's doing,
Yeah. And I know with being January and the new year, like you said, a lot of folks come to town, and you guys, you start introducing a lot of caregivers into homes with a new plan of care, even just thinking about what's going to happen down the road, right?
Yeah, we do. I think the biggest thing that we like to try to tell families is, as you're sort of being introduced to home care, is let's come up with a plan. Let's come up with your top 3 wants and desires about how we can improve the situation. So they might be things like, okay, dad is not doing a great job taking his medicine, so we might need reminders. It could be, we'd really like to make sure we get 3 or 4 showers in, so that hygiene is a top priority. And it could be, hey, he's been missing doctor's appointments, so we need to really make sure that we're getting them there. And then let's give that a few weeks and make sure that we're hitting all those marks, and then let's have another 3 top goals. And so we keep improving upon those.
And I know in our business with Right at Home, it's like, that's a great introduction opportunity for someone that's never had home care to start getting comfortable with, strangers in the home. And they're there just helping out with the basics. But what we do find, I know you can vouch for this, is that we find that over time, they really get close with those caregivers. And then as their needs, they have more needs from home care, those caregivers are there and they're very comfortable with each other, and it makes for a great scenario.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed.
Well, something on the positive side, I know we were talking about through the holidays and hospice and so forth, but a bereavement coordinator, your role really is to get in and support and help and make that more of a positive experience, correct?
Right. And as we know, grief, it's an individualized grief. None of our grief is better than anyone else's or harder, according to the circumstances. So a lot of people I meet with individually to see, how do we need to work towards this? Because the main thing is that grief is work, and you have to keep working through that process to find your next phase of life, because it's going to be so different without that loved one in it. And then we have support groups. We have one in Bluffton and one in Hilton Head. And a lot of people get, they do well in the support groups because you really have that shared loss with other people that are able to support you. And even though we have family and friends, a lot of times they don't know what to say, or it gets to be overwhelming and they say, I don't want to keep talking to them. But one of the things we really do is try and bring gratitude into it. Trying to feel yourself, everything is positive. I say if there's anything negative, like the news, or it's too much, step away from it right now. That you really have to take care of yourself. Right. And, I think if we're grateful, even for the small things and for that time with that loved one, the more we think about gratitude, the less time we have, for the loss in our heart.
Barbara, hold that thought. We're going to need to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.